All right, guys, welcome to today's Local Yokels Podcast. I am Neil Colley, your host. We're in DeSoto County, Mississippi, so that anybody that's picking up on this knows that it's not DeSoto County, Florida, or Texas, so I always try to tell you that. But I want to say a thank you to our primary sponsor, RoofWorksMidSouth.com. Randy Hendrickson, Kay Hendrickson, thank you for everything you do to support our program and all we do with Feed My Lambs. Also, my primary focus for sponsorship and fundraising is that Feed My Lambs. We feed kids on a backpack program where we put food in their backpacks on Fridays when they go home from school. Food security gets them through to Monday. Takes a lot of people, a lot of money. We're always fundraising for that. We're giving away a 1967. It's an actual GMC step side. I keep saying C10. I guess it's a C15 technically, but it's being built by Outlaw Intentions out of Strayhorn, Mississippi. And it's being painted by the great Giesling family at Ronnie's Hot Rods down in Senatobia, Mississippi, which everybody knows them. So it's going to be a really special ride. So we'll be announcing how to get involved in that, buy tickets for it, for the giveaway coming up October 11th this year. And just reach out if you can help out, with the program, sponsor a child, donate, volunteer, bring some food, whatever you can do. We appreciate it. So thank you very much. Without further ado, my guest today, Mr. David Vincent from the Warriors Center in Olive Branch.
Yes, sir. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you coming in, man. So, I do a lot of, as you know, recovery, drug recovery, alcohol recovery stories. I'm pretty sure you know everybody I've had on the show because they do something similar to you. What I've learned is everybody does a little different. Correct. Everybody has a little different program. And the reason why I want to do so many of these is because we all have a family member or a friend that has been through a battle with that. I don't think it excludes any family I'm aware of. Everybody has somebody that's dealt with addiction in their life.
I don't know one.
I don't know any, do you? Yeah. So what it is, you have a unique perspective on it because you once yourself was a recovering addict, correct?
Right. There were drug abuse issues and a whole lot of other issues.
Right. Well, we all have that.
Led me into this.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always try to tell, somebody asked me the other day, like, man, you always got somebody on there talking about addiction. I was like, because it's a big deal in our society, like it really is. And there's so many different places and different programs. Some of them are, the high majority of them are faith-based, which yours is as well. I think it's important. Correlation. You and I talked about that a little bit in our personal lives when we talk. We don't know each other, but we kind of know each other through some familiar friends. Wesley Nunn, he gave me your number originally a few months back. We tried to connect.
Old friends.
Old friends. Back in the day. I had dinner with him the other night. He is a hoot. So shout out to Wes and Cass. I know they'll be watching. So, but, your story, each one of them are unique to everybody's path is unique to them. A little bit different than one, but they have these similar premises. How I got off the rails, all these years of addiction, right? How I got, my sobriety back, how I kept it, all these different programs that I've talked about from Tried and True Recovery with Jake and Sarah Linton, Ann Lunsford's Precious and Pink Home, Stacy Dodd with Woodland Recovery. I mean, the list goes on and on of people that are involved in this business. Yours is another one. It's local, that is an opportunity for people to, get their lives back on track. And I want to bring you in today to talk about what you do specifically. It could be different, might be similar to what they do in some cases, but it's unique to your program and what you do. So let's talk about what the Warrior Center for Women is about in Olive Branch, Mississippi.
Yes, sir. Well, Warrior Center is a faith-based recovery program. It's long-term. It's a one-year program, and we reach out. We have 5 campuses now. So we have a men's center in Memphis and a women's mission ministry in Olive Branch. But we reach out to men and women and some veterans who are battling homelessness, addiction, or we would say any life controlling problems, because it can be other things.
Yeah, right. I didn't even know that about the homelessness stuff. So yeah,
right. So we. And we do that through a faith-based recovery program. It's long-term, which we reach out to many of those who are, you would call the worst cases. I mean, these are, somebody's been on crack cocaine since they were 12 or alcohol since they were 9, and it's a lifelong issue. Us being a one-year program, you got to imagine if someone's willing to set a year of their life
they're
aside,
ready.
They're also very broken. These are these are the worst cases.
Right.
You know? So we work in that field and we do it through a faith-based program in DeSoto County here, which actually the Warrior Center started in DeSoto County.
Yeah.
This started in 1999. After I came out of all my mess and God had touched my life, I got radical with it and started doing homeless street ministry and working with some of the younger kids, 18, 19 years old in Greenbrook in South Haven. And something that didn't mean to do it. It really started by accident, but I started taking young men into my home, some homeless people into my home. So Warrior Center started in South Haven.
And people tell you, like, you're crazy, David. What are you doing? Like, I know that.
Well, they kicked me out of there.
Right.
The city of South Haven, which I understand, like you got 15 dudes living in your house. It's a little edgy.
Jake Linton, when he was on my show, was talking about that. There's really no laws to that. Like these sober living houses and these facilities, there's no legislature written on them. And so you have to go almost to your local superintendents and stuff to fight for you to have these homes.
Right.
And get them approved to where the location's good because, they're all good people, man. They're just, the chemicals got them messed up.
Right.
So let's don't look at them as like, jailbirds and all this stuff. I know that's what's happening in those communities. So like you said, you get kicked out because you got
everybody thinks it's a good thing, but it's kind of like the garbage dump. Nobody wants it next
to
their
their house. That's right. Yeah.
And so that's how we started. And so it was started in DeSoto County and like 4 or 5 the men's center was in 4 or 5 locations in DeSoto County. We ended up in Memphis in a large former nursing home, which was a great fit and helped us to settle down and help more people. But in 2014, there was a program called Safe Haven that closed in Olive Branch, and they donated their building to us so that we could begin
That's amazing.
helping women.
Yeah.
So we opened that and then opened up a thrift store in Olive Branch, which helps to fund that. And we have a 24-bed women's facility, and then we have 2 sober living houses for women. Also, when they graduate, they go on into the next stage.
One of the things I was going to ask you about today is through my contacts I've learned, because I'll be honest with you, man, I am no expert on any of this stuff. Like I'm literally just creating a platform, but I'm getting educated by every person I have on, and one of the things I learned, and you can tell me if it's true or not, the idea behind women not seeking as much help as men do, and how the correlation of people who have drug and alcohol is a very low percentage that ask for help. But then there's even this 1 or 10% of those actually are women that actually ask for help because of the fact that they have this fear of losing their families and their lives and their children and stuff. Whereas men, they have a similar fear, but they're not as tied to the kids like women are. Right. So talk about that a little bit.
Right. Well, yeah, I say not as many women need help or ask for help. But when they do, there's very few resources for them. And that's, as we came up with the men's center and we were helping men, we would have ladies come to our door, make phone calls. There were so few resources for them. We would refer. We were sending them to Nashville sometimes, putting them on a bus just to try to still help.
Sure.
And it became a dream to one day open up a women's program to be able to help women also. But some of that reason is, I think, number one, a lot of the women will be in bad relationships, and so they have men maybe who work or take care of them. A lot of times there's domestic violence, or they're both using. So women don't end up homeless as much as men. A lot of times when people get help, it's because the bridges are burned and people say you got to get help or you're homeless, and because they have men to stay with, and even
take care of them,
even if they're bad situations, even if they're bad situations they don't need to be in, but they're more security creatures. So you don't see as many women. And then the child thing that you mentioned, a lot of times there's children involved and they're not leaving their kids.
No.
And so a woman will stay in a bad situation longer, really, and before she'll get help. And then, of course, men and women are God made them different. And so, men are more apt to do stupid stuff, steal cars, do drugs, color outside the lines.
They outlive us for a reason, David.
Yeah.
They for sure.
The prisons are also 90% male.
Right.
So therefore it's 90% men in treatment. But when a woman needs help, there's so few resources, and that's where we were able to step in 2014.
Well, and in a situation, it has to make business sense too. Like it has to pay for itself.
Right.
So like you have to have enough of them willing to get involved and be a part of it. So more and more, and that's why I love about some of these programs I have on that are tied to the women more, because I don't want to discount the fact that men need help, but there's a lot more opportunities out there for us. So DeSoto County's women's facility is kind of why you're here today, to focus on that primarily, because it is a resource locally, here on that show. The show's about local stuff.
Right.
Now, Memphis is local to us for sure, but the men's houses that you've developed there and then some here. But again, wanted to focus on the resources you have in the county. And also, tell us about a little bit like how once they come to you, what is the process like? I mean, it's a 1-year commitment. So when they step in your door, they're there for a year. Right. Can they just walk out?
Yes. So, it is, it's not a lockdown facility,
right?
So they can choose to try it. Like sometimes, so and every woman doesn't finish, which they did.
Yeah.
Some may stay 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and many graduate and complete the program. But it's set up in a 1-year model, and we set it up like that because as I was coming up in South Haven, I did everything, and we did a 28-day program. We changed it to a 3-month. I went to a 6, but I as we were coming up on the road to hard knocks, how to help people. Everybody's not ready, and that road was hard, and I learned a lot of hard lessons. But one of the things that I was trying to build the most powerful program that can change lives. I believe my life was changed through faith and connection to God. And so, of course, it was faith-based, but just what are the systems and the processes? I did a lot of research early on in my first couple of years, and in my research, I found the most successful programs nationwide are faith-based and at least 1 year.
Right.
So, that's why Warrior Center went with that model. If you go to faith-based programs, they are the most successful model in the country. And I believe that the dirty secret, and we talked about this in private, is that we can't quit anything. I couldn't quit my mass. You can't. You have to replace it with something. Of course, that can be, a spiritual walk, your connection to God.
Yes, sir.
It could be a purpose. It could be charity work. It could be giving back, but you have to, if you don't have a purpose, it's like 0% chance. If you don't replace it with something, there's 0% chance, And so.
And some people, it's just a hobby. What I mean? Can take the place, and they're obsessed with working out. Or it's like we were talking about, one of my good friends, race cars become his addiction. So
you got to have something,
absolutely.
So, but we got a whole latched on to the 1-year faith-based model, because it's the most successful, proven with data.
I think you go to 6.
You go from 6 months to 1 year, it doubles. For instance,
the success rate.
So we stayed faith based, which we started, and we ended up building a 1-year model. Now it's a model; it's a different model, but this is a model of you're going to set a year of your life aside, and you're going to do everything with us. It's like a family environment. But we're working together. So they come in and they commit to a year. They live with us. They work with us. They ride with us. Now as you grow through the program, you start earning home passes and rewards.
Freedoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
But really, you're living with us a year.
Yeah.
And the kind of a lot of times, Warrior Center has been controversial in DeSoto County in some ways, and some of the reason why was because when I came up, I didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't legal.
Sure.
So we were, and once we got going, honestly, when they told me in South Haven to put all those people out on the streets, I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. We went and found another house, and we did it there. And there was some of that, but I knew God had called me to do it, and we had a righteous cause, and there was a lot of politics involved. And honestly, that's one thing about the Warrior Center.
You just started out of like a design to help folks. Like,
I was just got people into my home.
I just got help. Now I'm sober and I'm living this life. I want to show these other folks. So it started from a real grassroots, like just wanting to help your friends and family.
Get them sober, get them in church.
So you didn't have a clue what you were doing.
No, didn't.
Other than just, I know this worked for me. Let me show them how I did it.
In my heart, I felt like God could help you.
Yeah.
And
then of course the powers that be around you is like, What's this guy doing over here? You know what I mean?
They called me into court in South Haven and said, you
God.
get these people out of this house in 2 weeks. And another door opened up. We moved to down near Arca Butler, and we were there 6 months, and they kicked me out of there. And so, it became, and here's the thing, behind the curtains, they were saying, David, this is a great thing. We're for it, but these people are going to vote me out. And they literally would say, you stay over there until we get a lot of pushback, and then you're going to have to move somebody else. So they were I was getting some attaboys, but
they couldn't publicly support it.
No. But, Warrior Center was a trailblazer in DeSoto County in recovery. We were the first people there were no halfway houses, there were no treatment centers, there were no rehabs, there were no recovery homes. We were the very first in DeSoto County to do it. And when you start the first, the powers that be just did not want this.
They didn't understand it yet.
They actually I had a politician say, you need to take this to Memphis.
Wow.
Here was the crazy thing about it. 80% of the people that were coming into our Warrior Ministries home, was what it was called at that time, were from DeSoto County. Yeah. These were 19-year-olds on meth from Greenbrook. These were 21-year-olds on cocaine from Horn Lake. But and for me, so in that season, it was definitely controversial from that side, because it was kind of like in the Bible, there's this verse about King David, and he had this cave, and it was a cave of Adullam, and he was actually a wanted man because they were trying to kill him, and he went to a cave, and it says that he had 400 to 500 men that came up to him, and they were in this cave for 3 years. And that's kind of what Warrior Center was in DeSoto County. It was kind of a hidden thing, always helping people, we did that like 8 years from 5 different locations in DeSoto County. So, it did start off kind of controversial. So sometimes we have that, that
stigma,
thing.
I guess, it hangs in there a little bit.
And then the other thing that people say about us is sometimes they don't know any better. It was like, well, it's just a work program. It's just all about the work. But with our model, it became a model of, I don't want that girl at the Women's Center and to go out and get a job at the 3-month mark and make $500 or $600 a week. She was just doing fentanyl 6 months ago, and she had a 14-year habit. Right. There's a 99% failure rate when you're that low and you're in that much bondage. Yeah. For you just to jump out there, because there's not 90% of the people don't have the support system in place. Sure. They're going to same people, same places, same things, and so what we do is we don't want her to work that job. We have a thrift store model. They work with us through the thrift store. They do earn some money, but we're trying to really put money, work, relationships, cell phones. You're setting things aside to take a step to God, to work on your relationship with God, because you need spiritual support, and to work on yourself. Sure. That's our model. I don't apologize for it, you know, but we get a lot of crap for it. I mean, I constantly hear, I had a friend the other day, and he's been a friend of the partner of the ministry for 2 years. He said, David, I was talking to somebody in Hernando, and they were just kind of speaking negative to you about y'all. About why? Yeah. The 2 reasons, what I just shared with you. So number one, we started off kind of radical, doing it anyway, and kind of and being on the front page of the newspapers because this convicted felon's got 12 dudes living in the house, and then the work side, people say things, but again, I don't make any apologies.
Well, I think the thing with the work is, I think, because I got a little bit of that when I was talking to others, because I like to vet people a little bit before I get them on the show. Right. So I heard amazing things. Right. People obviously that come through your house. That's the people I wanted to talk to. Right. I don't give a damn about Shirley on the corner. Right. That heard something. Right. I want to talk about the people who have been through the program, understand it, why it worked for them or why it didn't work for them. So it took me a little time. I probably heard about you last year, I think. And then my buddy Wes was like, I need to get on is my buddy David. He's doing amazing things.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't know him, but I've heard about the program, so let me talk to some folks. So I did. And through that time period, I heard a multitude of things. And some of the things was they work on, they send them out of state, they do this and that. Well, that's part of the process is teaching them responsibility It's a way for them to go out, clean up arenas, things of that nature. They pay their way. It's a workable pay their way through the system thing. Right. So it's not an insurance based or mom and daddy's going to pay for your stick there, your stint there for a year. You got to pay for this. Right. And through your efforts, you're going to pay for it. You're going to understand the value of it. We're going to give you some of your money back, but you're also going to help pay for the lights and gas and water in this place.
You're going to be a part of this.
It's a family.
And I don't, anybody that's ever got inside and took a tour and saw the nuts and bolts, you can understand it more. It's better than the alternative, because what happens is the ones that do well, and many do. Yeah. We have many graduates, and we have a 65% success rate at our men's center and an 80% success rate at our women's center. It's off the charts. Yeah. But especially when you take faith-based versus secular programs. But that's, now, being honest, that's graduates.
Yeah, that's graduates.
That means somebody who finished the whole thing. Yeah. Where are they 2, 3, and 5 years later? 80% of our women who've went through that olive branch program are doing well today. 80%. But what are they, they're taking a year of their lives, but what's happening is they come in and many of them find a family and love that it becomes their family. Many that they never had. Yeah. They find a support system that will be there forever. It's just ain't just go to a treatment center and leave it becomes a family. They work and they participate, but they feel a part of something. They feel a part of something. We have this thing, be a part of something great. Help the next woman come through the door. And so it's like they're getting help, but they also have a purpose themselves. Right. If they're working through a thrift store, we do event staffing, and it helps it does help pay their way. But the value of that, of being a part of what's going on and feeling that, and they do a lot of good things too. They go out and feed the homeless themselves. They have to do 16 homeless outreaches to graduate the program, and they're going out and serving. So they're going out and
community service oriented constantly. Yeah. So like you're putting them out these events, like you talk about service events, like let's say FedEx Forum or something. It's just off the wall. They hire you to come in, you help clean up the program. Right. After an event, you come in, you get the trash. They all do that kind of work. They get paid a fee. Right. You probably do some kind of this is how you're going to pay your way through the thing. It's going to teach you responsibility. It's going to teach you how to be a teammate in a workable program. Clearly what they've been doing for the last ever how many years is not working for them. That. So, so it's all about a selfish model. So you almost have to have this community group. Every program I talk to that's in the recovery center, it's all about team and family and how to live together, how to work together. And it teaches you a lot more resiliency in your life about what you're capable of going through, because you've been in a funk and a probably not a memorable time in your life to where somebody's cared enough about you to go, hey, let me help you with that. Let me do this. Let me do that. Without it being an agenda-based, transactional type relationship, So as you talked before about the being in a bad relationship, drugs, maybe it's abuse, domestic violence, all those things. So you eliminate all that when they walk through the door. The whole point is to get are they coming to you clean already, or are they coming to you? So they're already, you got to get the chemicals out of their system.
Yeah, we have an intake line, and so if a woman calls to get help, and we have 3 women's centers, one in DeSoto County and one in Arkansas, one in Tennessee and Bolivar. But if someone calls and they're North Mississippi or Memphis based, they're calling for help. It'd be a lady and she's battling addiction. She's trying to get out of a bad relationship. Some are coming out of prostitution.
Lots of stuff. None of
it's tough.
None of it. It's really tough. I always say it's not a one size fits all type thing.
And they call for help. We share about the program, and it's very low threshold to get in. Meaning, are you sincere? Are you serious? Are you willing to do? We tell them about the program. We interview them, and they agree to come in, and we set that up. Some need detox, medical detox. So we have 2 detoxes that we use if they need detox, especially if it's alcohol, Xanax or something, then they may need it. Then we would get them in detox ourselves. They would come to us. We get them the detox. They would spend 3 to 5 days in detox. Then they come to us and start our program. But about 95% don't need detox, and they're just some tough days because they've been using. I say fentanyl. It won't kill you coming off of, but it feels like it. Oh yeah. That and opiates.
Obviously, opioids.
they come in and they're usually given a couple of days and then they start their program. The program is started. There's we call it a 28-day spiritual boot camp, which is kind of it's groups, classes, chapels. And once you may get a couple of days off, but once you get started, it's military structure. Mm-hmm. It'll test you. Like we tell them, we want to see how serious you are. So we have this military structured program and it really works. And it's really like, okay, you've been going under your rules and what you want to do. Now you're going to do what we want to do. Yeah. So that means you're up at 5:30 in the morning. You have a 6 a.m. room inspection. The bed's got to be tight. Right. All that. You got to line up at 6 a.m. for breakfast. You got to be 5 minutes early for every group in class. They have a schedule from 5:30 to 10:30 at night. They're kept busy where they can't even almost think, but it's all good stuff. They're in meetings. They're in Celebrate Recovery. They're in AA. They're in chapels. And they do that for 28 days. And you will not make it through that. Some leave. Yeah. If you are not really serious. Sure. But that's kind of, once they get through that, then we have what's called, phase 2 is the 11-month New Life program. It's like, okay, now you've proved you're serious. Yeah. Now let's put the building blocks together to transform your life. And in that part of the program, second phase at 11 months, which makes the year, there's a ranking system. So there's actually ranks like they're in the military. We kind of try to set this military order, and they have to be there at least a year and rank up too. So some might stay 15 months, Okay. And they have to complete all the ranks. But in the ranks, you're doing the 12-step. You got a counseling session at each level. You're doing life skills. There's parenting skills. There's marriage classes. Just kind of really all the building blocks that many didn't get somewhere. Never had a dad in their life, or and they got to do 16 outreaches. There's also spiritual curriculum that they do, and they're working. They're working 8 hours a day in a thrift store or in another
some capacity.
I mean, some working half work on site, but it's self-ran facility. So you have ladies in Olive Branch, they're running the kitchen. Mm-hmm. They're running the laundry room. Mm-hmm. They're doing building cleanup. Sure. They're doing lawn care. They're assisting the different departments of the program. So it's like they're not just there; they're a part of it, and they're helping to run. It's like really, it's not going to run without you, kind of thing. Sure. But man, you see so many women there who just, once they get still, begin to heal, and get sober, that they just grab a hold of it, and because I'm biased. It's a special place. Our problem is we've been starting new campuses just to give these ladies jobs. We have 3 women's center. Why is that? Because we have in our program, once you graduate, we call it, there's 3-track plan. Track 1 is bridges might not be burned at home, so you can go back home. Maybe mama's letting you come back. You're going back. You got a husband and children, and there's been restoration. So you have home track, and you have work track, and that means we will help you get a job. And you can stay with us so that there's no time that you got to get out. You can stay with us as long as you want. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we have 2 sober living homes to help them. They graduate, we get them in a job, get them to work, charge them very low, just $100 a week for room, board, food, their lunches at work, everything, so they can save money quickly and get their license back.
Right. So it's not like a big money maker from a standpoint of what you charge them. So people understand it's really, I mean, it has to make money. I mean, it has to. You got to at least break even. Yeah, you got to do pay the bills. And you got a personal life you got to maintain. I mean, I get that. But
the cost of that bed they hold on would be, $400 a week, and they're only paying $100. Right. Because it's not about that.
So in that particular case like that, with the structure of the program, everybody's wanting to know, wow, that seems expensive. But tell them a little bit about how you do pay for it. Like to where beyond them going out and working for themselves and then paying a little bit of money, how does it happen?
Well, we would, in our women's center, it would be like a Salvation Army model. Sure. And that's it. We have a thrift store. So the thrift store off the square there in Olive Branch, the community has been very good to us. The more and more people who found out about the mission and what we do and the women's lives that are being changed, they're giving more and more and more. And it's almost, so much to keep up. But the store's been growing. And it alone, be honestly, I'm transparent and, that store in Olive Branch brings in $50,000 a month. It's a little store, and 100% of it goes back into that program.
Into that house.
Some of the women work for them and stuff like that, but it probably profits $35,000 a month. And so it's funded. So 60% of the funding comes from the thrift store.
Okay.
20% comes from donations. So we do have churches that support us, individuals that support us.
Sure.
And then we have 20% that comes from event staffing. We do work in events and what you mentioned, which
I've seen some
crowd
places
control,
where
trash pickup.
Right, and you'll travel with this. Like I've seen some pictures on your Facebook page to where you're with them. Yes. You're out there. Y'all might be in New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You take a trip and you go out.
Right now, we have a group at the U.S. Open at the world's biggest golf tournament.
That's pretty amazing.
Working VIP food service. And a lot of times from the outside, people don't understand that. So you're taking people in recovery, on a trip. Now, everybody doesn't do that. It's very few. We have 230 beds at all campuses, and we take 30.
Right, and they got to be pretty prepared for that.
People that sign up and want to do it, that like to travel, that kind of thing.
And you probably, I guess, make sure they're good to travel at that point, the type of people. Make sure they're not on the brink of doing something dangerous while they're out there.
Yeah, they're approved. They have staff with them, but one of the things, it's a fundraiser for all of our campuses and our women's center there in Olive Branch. I tell people this, though. Like I said, so outside people talk, they don't see the big picture.
They don't.
Here's what I say. I said, even if we didn't need the money, I would still do those. Why that? Imagine a group of girls, a group of guys, because they're separate. They stay in separate houses and stuff but it's like going on a camping trip together. Mm-hmm. They get so close. They see things they've never seen. You're taking, every time we go somewhere, we always do something on the way back. We might go to Washington, D.C., New York City, the Niagara Falls, Grand Canyon, the ocean. And so 80% of I didn't know, I'd been all over the country. I'd really traveled. But most people haven't.
Yeah, that's right.
And they've never seen the ocean, and they've never. And so, this way, we do that as a part of our fundraising. The event staffing, which goes into travel. We do NASCAR. We're at Talladega, and we're working on pit row, man.
That's cool.
Cleaning up trash on pit row. Best seats in the house. Yeah. You can't. People would pay for those kind of experiences, and I've been down there in the pit working with them, but it's a life experience. It's like a team building exercise, and it raises money for the Warrior Center. So
they're helping themselves. I mean, they know the better the center's doing, the better y'all can take care of them. Facilities, opportunities, connections, all that stuff. So, when they come out of the program, they might go back into that world, because they enjoyed that atmosphere of working as a team for an event program or something.
We've had many graduates who went to work for the companies that we work for in the event staffing field. But it's a side company for us. But we also, by doing it, it does help to create some jobs in there. So we have graduates who work for us on the event staffing side who just lead and supervise and work. Sure. And so, but it's helped us to grow immensely. And really the goal has always been to open new campuses, to take more ground, to give these girls and guys a chance to step into track 3. And that was, we call it ministry track, which is a track of, hey, you can go home, you can get an outside job, or you can take a ministry track and work with us. Start as an intern in the first 3 months and begin working. But we have 84 employees at the Warrior Center.
That's pretty amazing.
81 are graduates.
That's crazy.
So it is. It's like I would have never, I would have never set up like this. I would have got some degreed people. Well, in fact, they told me to do that, but we couldn't. We didn't have the money.
But clearly they believe in it.
They do.
They love it. It's changed their lives.
Yep.
Because I've never had an issue with addiction or alcohol to where I've had to seek that help. But through this program and the people I meet, I'm learning so many amazing things. Meeting people in public to where I see they start talking to me a little bit because they know what I'm doing now. So they were like, oh man, that program is amazing. Or, that one wasn't good for me, but I know people who succeeded in it.
Right.
It just wasn't for me at the moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? So having advocates for I think I told you we'll say, hey, Kat, you're out there. I taught you about Kat.
Right.
She cut my hair. And when I was just in conversation, she's like, I think I know you. From something. She seen me on a show.
Yeah.
And then she's like, telling me about her recovery because I had done one, and I guess that's maybe where she had seen it. And she started talking about you. And I said, that's funny because I'm actually having him on my show. Yeah. And I said, we just haven't been able to connect and talk. She goes, man, that thing did wonders for me. It's an amazing program. I love them. You know what I mean? And it seems like she's on a path of success.
She's doing very
and I
well.
love that about her. She's been on a recent little camping trip. I think she was talking about getting burnt the other day. So she's living her life. She's doing good. There's many programs. She's behind another one that's big here in the community. The Philippians House, is that maybe one that's kind of up and coming?
One of the sober living houses.
Yeah, sober living houses that's popping up, and I want to talk to them. Anything that's a resource in our community, I want to talk about. And I want you for sure, the leaders and the ones who start them and run the programs, but I also want to hear from the individuals who've been through those programs. So your testimony is to someone else that's listening can be a path for them. To succeed and stay sober or get help in the immediate necessary. Another thing you do that we need to talk about is, beyond the structure of the faith-based stuff, but you actually have training facilities to where you help teach them job skills.
Right.
So talk about that a little bit, because I don't think the public knows about that.
Right. Along the way, of course, our mission in Warrior Center is not a perfect place. It's not for everybody, and but it is helping a lot of people. But along the way, the goal has always been make the program better and to help the people, so to give them all the tools they need. So along the way, I had a dream to start a trade school within the program, and early on we were sending men mostly to Delta Tech there in Horn Lake, so they were in our program, and then we would allow them to start Delta Tech, and we'd drive them back and forth at the end of each day, and I helped someone get a welding, helped a woman get a beauty school, helped maybe 8-9 guys get an HVAC license, and the logistics were hard, and then we found out that we could have an HVAC school. HVAC's one of the easiest licenses to get.
Sure.
And you don't have to have so many hours like plumbing or electrical. So we actually 6 years ago started an HVAC school in our men's center. That started us to start our own company called Lion Company. And so we have a company that helps. It's a side company. It's under the ministry called Lion Company, but we do HVAC, plumbing, remodeling, and construction.
Wow.
And so we started doing all these fields with the goal of doing work, but having interns out of the Warrior Center program to learn the trades. So we began teaching trades. In fact, that I know of, Warrior Center is the only faith-based recovery program with a Core 3 program in its program. Core 3 is electrical, plumbing, HVAC. So we have an HVAC school in both of our men's centers.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we have men who are, while they're with us a year, getting their license.
Yeah.
We're starting, next Saturday, we start a new class, and we'll have a 6 to 8 month class, and a new group will come through. And that's how we built Lion Company, and
we say Lion, Lion. Okay,
yes, Dan.
Lion.
Yes, and it's out of Olive Branch, and like I said, we do painting and remodeling, HVAC, plumbing, and construction, and so we employ 12 graduates of the program. So anything from the supervisor to, who have done well, they got 6 years, and a lot of the people in addiction are gifted people.
Sure, man.
I had an eye surgeon from Baton Rouge come through our program. You don't never know, Now, of course, it can take you down through there, and but a lot of gifted people, and some of the most wonderful hearts in the world have been covered up in addiction.
Sure.
But yeah, so we started that, and we're actually in process right now. We want to start going through the steps of starting a beauty school, off-site beauty school, to allow women to be able to get that trade while we're working.
Because honestly, that's something that I think most women, I wouldn't say all, but most women are interested in beauty school.
Yeah.
They're in a standpoint of where they're whether it be a nail technician, hair, or whatever, aesthetically, they're always more concerned about it than us. You can start a barber school. How hard is it to buzz mine in your hair?
Right.
Not too tough.
Not too,
so
too hard.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of upkeep on our age, David.
But the goal has been through, better jobs, training from life skills, job skills, trade skills, to give them, because I always felt like if you get something to hold on to, a lot of times you can make an example. We had a guy named Demetrius, And he pulled up in the van maybe about 2 years ago. He seen me out front, the men's center, and he stopped, honked the horn. He pulled up in an HVAC van. And he said, I saw you out here and I want to say hi and I want to say thank you. And I said, what's going on, Demetrius? And he said, man, I got it. He said, before I came here, I hadn't done anything but sell drugs.
Oh, wow.
I never had a job in all my life. And I got court ordered here. Didn't even want to be here.
Right.
Went through the program. You helped me get my HVAC license. And I got 4 years sober, 3 years working for this company. I'm making
good money.
Yeah, $1,200 a week. So I got a company van. I'm married and have a son.
Wow.
And I never had a job a day in my life. And so that, to me, that was the picture of that. It's like you can get overly spiritual all you want, but you gotta you gotta have life skills and you gotta have people skills and you gotta change your mindsets and you need a trade and you need good jobs. You need something to lean on, and so that was why we got a hold of that. We call it trade up.
Yeah, like
we're trying to help them to trade up in life and get better, so that their hope rises, and they so it's either through career that can bring you hope, or having a purpose if you take a ministry or a recovery path, and that's what we're trying to do. And
sure.
I tell people, if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I wouldn't have made it. If I wasn't sitting here across the podcast booth with you, if I wasn't, I'm telling you, man, I'd be in jail or dead.
Yeah.
I had too many demons, and I had to get a hold of something that was bigger than myself, and it's really like finding redemption. I think redemption is when I went through so much bad, so much pain. No father, a mother with mental problem, a mother who taught me to steal when I was really young because she was a kleptomaniac and she had mental problems, a stepfather who killed 3 people and beat the hell out of me all my life, and growing up in the inner city in Memphis. So I had all this bad. Then I had everything I did, everything I went through. Then I had everything I did, which was in jail every year of my life from 14 to 28, 18 felony charges, just a broken mess of a life. And to deal with your past, it helped me to deal with it, knowing, okay, but good's going to come out of it. And so it was almost like I'm sitting in jail, and I had a 1-year program, and it started at DeSoto County Jail, and then it ended up at the penal farm in Memphis, and God set me down.
Right.
And so I had it too. It was just by force.
Right.
And that was my recovery path. But I got a hold of redemption. It was like, that pain can be okay. If I do something good in life and somebody gets some help who never would have got it, had I not went through that, failed like that, then it's okay. I can deal with it. And so when I started taking those baby steps, and then it started, I volunteered at a rescue mission in West Memphis, and then I started doing street ministry.
And it made you feel amazing. And
it was the best high in the world, man.
Oh my God, yes.
Getting up and talking and sharing on the streets, it was like there's no high like that, man.
I think no comparison to anything what you do, but like just community service and helping others beyond just drug recovery and stuff like that. But it is. I guess you would like it's gratifying. It's a high, if you will. I don't see it that way. Yeah. I know, but because you're an addict,
you're coming out of that.
Yeah, for sure. But I know the feeling. My mom, you said, "Oh, I feel so good. I've helped so many people." It is. It's rewarding. So, I guess you get it from different ways.
And there's a spiritual principle too. It's like you rise by helping others, and it's in the book of Ephesians. It says the same thing that I do for others, God will do for me. And I've seen it. It's like you show mercy. You get it in places when you may have not gotten it. You show grace, you get it in places when you need it. You give money, you support things. When you need it, it's going to be there. So so it's whatever you do comes back. And so men and women are coming through our program, and we're trying to take them out to feed the homeless. We also through a partnership with Dr. Robert Seymour here in Hernando, we've done mission trips for years. So Warrior Center, as a part of our program, we also
I remember him used to leave. By the way, he used to do he did all my mom's stuff. Miss Nancy Colley, Dr. Seymour. He's a dentist, by the way, if people don't know that, here in Hernando,
Salt
Mississippi.
Of the earth, one of the greatest men I've ever met.
Yeah, and I used to be like 15 years ago or so, I'd be like, "Can I get that done?" No, going to be out of town for a month. I'm like, well, where are you going? I'm going to South America. I'm like, for vacation? No.
Mission trip.
We're mission trips. We're going to help others. We're trying to fix this and fix that. And I mean, he is really an essential piece of that community that you're talking about. So shout out to Dr. Seymour.
Yes, sir.
If you do happen to see this, don't know if you will or not, but he is a good man for sure.
Yeah, and we've been blessed we've been a part of 19 mission trips to Honduras on the back of everything they've built down there. And, and they have dental clinics, medical clinics. They help a mission down there. They have feeding programs in the garbage dump for the garbage dump kids. And we've been, over the years, I've done everything in my power to take men and women out of our programs down there to serve. And I say, if I can get you to Honduras, my success rate goes up because it's hard to, of course, you're Americans, you think everything is owed to you. We blame everybody. And all at once you're in a garbage dump.
And you see reality. And
you're like, these kids are running around with no shoes, living in huts on land that, just they're squatters, maybe, and they have nothing. And God has brought you all the way down here to help them through, rebuilding their kitchen, construction work, feeding, doing whatever. We do. Our ladies from the Women's Center in Olive Branch have been involved in doing eyeglass outreaches and going into these villages, and people are lining up and they have this machine and they test their eyes and the glasses are right there, and it's like they're an optometrist in Honduras. Me and you could be a dentist if we go to Honduras.
That's amazing.
Do anything,
yeah,
because it's a third world country, and so they. But in those purpose moments, where you get it. You get more out of it. It is more blessed to give than to receive. But when we're teaching them that, like, that's how you rise, helping others. And you would think, how can somebody like me, who I'm a mess, and it's like, it's different. You got to get your eyes off yourself and help others. Somebody, you can be in a bad position. There's somebody lower than you.
Man, I think with what you're talking about, maybe the most impactful thing you can do to them is to take them into a situation where you ain't got it so bad after all. When you see little kids that really their existence is there's no hope. Like they're just trying to get food for the next day. It's kind of why I got involved with feeding the kids, is because you can't help who you're born to.
Right.
Not everybody's good parents. Sometimes they're trying, they just don't know. Like you said, growing up, not good parents, clearly. Right. I had some amazing parents, thank God. And they showed me a path for community service and humanitarian, needs, and thank goodness for that stuff. But I didn't know it at the time. Looking back on it, I was just living it, But one thing I always learned is no matter how bad I had it, there was somebody had it worse. And I really didn't have it that bad, to be honest with you, David. Yeah. Like I always look at it as like, oh man, it's slow right now. Business is slow. I can't make it. I mean, it's going to be tough. But you know what? There's somebody worried about, how am I going to feed my kids tonight?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the problems that sometimes, a lady I had on last week, she was talking about her situation with drug recovery. Miss Betsy Bailey, and she did 25 years. She said, if you could do it, I did it. You know what I mean? And one of the things of it is like, she was raised in a good family and it just went off the tracks one day, so, you look back and you blame some reason for your drug addiction, or you get started on something, and looking back at it, it was just an excuse, to get involved, and it let you take you down this road because it's a feeling you get,
right.
We were talking about that feeling that you get with drugs. When you do get off of drugs, you typically do have to replace it with something, whether it be a hobby, religion. A lot of times you'll talk about all things to God, and that's good. It's good. It could be sports. It could be, working out. It could be you're super family oriented, or you just decide, I'm going to help everybody that I can because of what I know. And that's what you did.
What I went through.
And what you went through. Right. Something similar to her. She's on her path to get her counseling degree and drug and alcohol recovery.
Awesome.
So she can be a part of something to give back the rest of her life the way that someone helped her. And I think that's something that happened to you. It's something that happened to Stacy Dodd. It's something that happened to Jake. Everybody I've had on the show.
Right.
Go back to talk about the House of Grace with the domestic violence. Those women all came through that program that run that thing. Like they were all domestically abused.
Right.
And so the success, they want to help, they want to continue that path. And that's what you're doing too. So you're creating a potential, your way that you learn, and you're learning from it constantly. You're always ever evolving your program, trying to figure out how to better it, to teach people how to be better, how to get their life back on the tracks. Maybe you're learning too all the time, right?
All the time.
I bet you some of your clients.
I've learned more in the last year than I have the entire time. It's crazy. It's
because like they're like, oh, geez, I didn't even see it that way. Like, how do we better that for them? Because they're such a unique individual. Their circumstances are unique, right? Yeah. So
and there's so many layers from the trauma side to the
mental health,
substance abuse to family of origin. Like this stuff is deep. Like I said, like we're a faith-based program, but it's not a religious program. It's just realizing that we're all broken. All humans are broken. Some more than others. And life is hard, and we go through a lot of things, and those things that you go through, they have an effect. And even we do with women, and the Bible says don't judge, but a lot of people do. And you may look at a woman, it's like, man, she wasn't there for her kids. She's on drugs. She's been in and out of jail. Now she's at the Warrior Center program, but man, she seems now to be doing great. I can't even imagine. That's the kind of the feeling you get, and you hear the bad things of her life, but when you peel it back and you hear about what she went through. So many times, man, it's like, it could a family member molesting them, to, no father, mom on drugs, daddy putting a needle in their arm. I mean, just stuff like you can't even imagine.
As like I said, it's not a one size fits all thing. Like I always talk about this. I'm actually trying to do a show. I've reached out to Sheriff Tuggle about some contacts. I'm meeting other people through child abuse. Not that we're going to explain details, but how it starts. And some of that creates addicts and alcoholism through the life because they're trying to dull that pain that's coming awakening as an adult, or it started early on as a teenager, So I get it, man. Like, again, I've never been through it.
Right.
I have no education behind all this, but it's so intriguing to how we try to help more people, to where not only do they not fall down that path, but also how to get out of it quickly if you do, So part of your program does this. Now, let's go on to something new that we talked about that you're trying to do. Let's talk about your program that you're doing off of Walnut Grove out there, what you're trying to get done.
Yes, sir. Well, recently we had an opportunity, had a company come to us with two big nursing home facilities in Memphis. One of them is in Frazier, actually the community I grew up. I grew up in Memphis. I was raised in Frazier.
Which, by the way, used to be a pretty good community back in the day.
Yes. Yeah. I came up after it was changing, it was that's where I grew up. But there was we purchased with some help of of some donors a building, a 55,000 square foot building, and so. And we're going to move our Memphis Men's Center there, and it's going to be a 150 bed facility. So we're excited about that. Well, the company then came to us, and they had a 74,000 square foot nursing home. It's like a mini hospital on Walnut Grove, right behind the Memphis Public Library. That's on the edge of East Memphis and the edge of Binghamton, right there at those doorways. Yeah, and They came to us and said, well, like, what would you do with this? And man, I said something like this, we would achieve another dream. And that's the dream of having a program for women and their children. Yeah. And because just like we started a women's center, because all the women were coming to us and there were no resources, over the years, we also see women coming to us with children. For instance, 5 weeks ago, we get a call. There's a lady sleeping in her car at the Walmart in South Haven. She's got 3 kids. 8, 5, and 2. She's left a domestic violence. She was in addiction. She's left a relationship with addiction to get away from a boyfriend, who's father of the young kid, and domestic violence situation. And she's trying to get help. But the problem is when you're a woman with children, there's even less resources. So there are actually 50 rooms in the Mid-South area, Memphis and Mid-South, for women with children. Yeah. meaning long term. Maybe a domestic violence shelter will help you stay for 3 weeks.
Sure.
But long term, there's only 50 of those. They're booked up for 2 years.
Oh my God.
So
and by the way, there's not many domestic violence shelters either.
Yeah,
so,
there's a shortage of
those.
Yeah,
there's a big. We need 10 more of those, if you will.
So we've dealt with that. Women with children, and you're giving them referrals that are basically dead ends. It's giving them a referral from out of town, Birmingham, Nashville, that sort of thing. But when a woman has her children but wants to keep her children with her, in fact, they need to be in a better situation. They need to be in a loving environment. They need in a supportive environment, an environment of faith and hope. And so we've had that dream. We always knew, like, one day we're going to do that. So God opened up a door. We were over the last 6 months, we've been working out, but they basically we've gotten this building. It needs some repairs, but we just signed the papers a month ago, about a month ago. That building is now ours on Walnut Grove. 74,000 square foot.
That's huge.
120 rooms. It's going to be a 200-bed women and children's home. It's going to be a 2-year project. It's damaged. There's the wire, electrical wire was pulled out. We have to, and
go figure that.
Yes,
it's in Memphis, right?
By addicts.
By addicts. They were pulling it out.
And but we just signed the papers. That is now ours. So we're going to do a women and children's home, and we're really excited. And it's a big step, but it's been a big dream. I'm excited. I said, man, God, if I can be a part of this, boy, that's the icing on the cake.
Man, you can really help a lot of people.
Yes. And so we hope it's going to take about 18 months.
Yeah.
And to rehab the building and open that up. But we're starting that process.
Is it something to where, I guess, in transition to these guys who are teaching all these life skills, not just the women, but by the men's home, that we talk about the Warriors Center with a S, Warriors with a S centers. Those men that have been trained and got a trade, are you going to probably take them from your business to line business and help rehab this place, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So they are already being involved. We've had to tear out sheetrock, do demo, and so them and the residents.
Sure.
So that's one of the great things. We have a lot of gifted people. We do a lot of our own work, and so we're licensed on HVAC, licensed on plumbing. That's
the biggest issues.
We say, if you imagine on all of our facilities, we do all our own HVAC. That saves us a lot. We wouldn't survive with that. We can't spend $200,000 a year on HVAC.
No way. And on top of that, like the person, I want to give a shout out if you want to the people who got you involved in that facility.
Right. On the Walnut Grove facility. Yeah. Well, it was a group called Volunteer Healthcare Properties. And, they reached out to us and they were going up for auction and wanted to know if we would be interested. We were in a place where I was already praying and I had said, God, if you open up a building for us in Memphis, we'll do a women's home at the minimum. Yeah. And it turned out the building allowed us to take a step past it and do women and children.
But we don't think about the kids a lot of times. Like, with domestic violence and drugs, there's always this thing behind them. This dangling around. They're called kids. Right. That's usually seeing. Right. They've lived the same hell, if you will, maybe even more so, because they love their mamas and daddies, and they want to see them succeed. They don't want to see them going to jail. They want to see them being hurt. They don't want to see them die.
They need them.
They need them bad. Yeah. And some of the kids I'm probably feeding in my program is probably a result of some of this stuff too. It's all correlated. And so I get that, but for them to be left behind, it goes back to like. In that program, I'm sure you'll have some mentorship in place. For sure. Some type of therapies in place for them to help deal with the same growth that their mother's trying to do, or their father, I guess, that sense.
It's a new step for us, a total new world when you start doing that. But it's going to be modeled after the Love Lady Center in Birmingham, Alabama. Very cool. They have a hospital there, and it's the same thing. It's a faith-based women and children's home. They can house up to 400. Wow. They run around 300 and something. But the way it's set up, yes, you have teachers because you have school there. You have child psychologists. It's a whole another level. Sure. So, and we have to step into a world of a lot of people don't know about us because, 80 to 90% has been paid for through our businesses. I hate asking for help. Yeah. That's a good thing and a bad thing, but God has gifted me through the business side, Sure. But we're starting a capital campaign in November and trying to let people know what we're doing. so that we can be able to do that. But to that level, it's another step. But yeah, you have to, when you have children, there's a lot of licensure issues, insurance issues.
Man,
it's security you got to think about.
Well, then you got to think about the people you got involved working there, right? So then the teachers, the coaches, the mental health people. I mean, then you're trying to protect the kids from outside interests that may focus on your place as an opportunity. You know what I mean? So these are the same struggles our school districts deal with, like trying to vet the right people to get involved with the teachers and things. So yeah, man, I mean, you're absolutely bringing on a challenge that is beyond challenges, when you start doing stuff like that. So I totally get that. I want to applaud you for, I mean, you could just do one type of thing with the men's center, but you're just trying to ever growing, trying to find out new ways to help other people, help families get back together. I'm sure a lot of the studies or your focus is studying how to keep the family unit together, because that is something that's very difficult. You grew up in a broken home, obviously, and everybody's got a unique story. But the one thing I always try to say is don't use that as a crutch to be on like a path of life, like, oh, let me just take this drink or whatever. It makes me forget about it. There's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. There's nothing wrong with smoking a little, whatever your case is. Just anything's okay in moderation. You need to learn how to live your life within the confines of society. And what I mean by that is whatever you're doing need to still allow you to work within the parameters of being a good contributing member of society from a standpoint to where you're not endangering yourself or anyone else in the process. And with drugs and alcohol, that's easy to get off tracks with. So I've been lucky. I don't know why. I've never have, because I've had a grandfather that was an alcoholic. I mean, I've had lots of that in my life, so I've seen it. And I don't know why. I don't know why I never took that path, but I'm just lucky.
Thank you, God.
Yeah, thank you, God. Yeah, absolutely. So with all the stuff we talked about today, what else would you like to focus on or tell the audience that might be listening what is going on?
Well, I guess two things. Sometimes I get the question of, how you got into this. I shared a little bit about that. Well, I shared a little bit about it, but it really came to a broken life on a jail cell floor, January 21st, 1997, and it was just me crying out to God to change my life.
Wow.
And that's where it all started. And I'm kind of, I'm not a religious kind of person, I say, but I believe in God, and I believe that He touched me, and also I got a lot of miracles. I should have done 15 to 20 years. That's what I was facing. I already had 13 felony convictions.
Because of drugs, mostly.
It was more than that. I mean, here's for your people, there are different addictions. Yeah. You can have pornography, you can have gambling, you can have a lot of vices. There's a lot of, with me, I did alcohol from 11 years old. I did drugs from 14. I will say I wasn't an addict because I would do it and quit. And I did everything from crack to primos to cocaine to ecstasy, but I would do it and stop. So I don't know. But what I was addicted to was being a thief. Mm-hmm. So growing up, my first memories was watching my mom steal. She was a kleptomaniac. She had mental problems. She had the mind of a 9-year-old, and she would go in the store and steal. So that spirit got on me. First time, I got them kicked out of a trailer park at 5 years old from running around the trailer park stealing. My first arrest was at 6 in Fraser for shoplifting in the grocery store. The first house I broke into, I was 9 years old, and my mom sent me in the house. She said, "They're gone. I left the window open for you." And so it just got worse and worse. And I'm stealing, I'm selling. I broke into the Walgreens through the roof at 14 years old, and I was stealing candy. I'd go in there a couple of times a week through the venting system and steal candy and beer, take it to Georgia Hills Junior High and sell it.
Oh, Lordy.
And of course, something's got a hold of you. That demon just gets worse and worse and worse. And so for me, in jail every year of my life from 14 to 28, 18, 19, man, I'm a professional burglar. I'm cracking safes. And so I was a thief.
Yeah.
I was addicted to that and control. It gave me control. It gave me lots of money, and it gave me this life where I thought I was like James Bond. And of course, chickens came home to roost, and I destroyed my life and lost a marriage, and wife divorced me in jail, and had 3 children I lost for a year and a half, and God restored that, and I was able to get back in their life. But so that was my past. So it was more, yes, a drug abuse, but it was one of those other vices that had a hold of me. But when my life was destroyed and I cried out to God, I heard a voice.
Yeah.
Not an audible voice, but inside. And it was, I'm going to hear your prayer, David. I'm going to show you mercy. And then I saw all these miracles. And then I hit the streets. And then I had to walk this path of walking it out, because every time I ever tried it before, I always crashed and burned. I'd do good for a month or two.
Sure.
And my identity was whack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who was I? I mean, I was worthless. Same thing my stepdad told me. Same thing my dad, who walked out on me when I was 1, told me with his feet. I was worthless. I was unlovable. I was nothing but a thief. I would never be anything. So you can have good intentions, but it's hard to walk that out,
sure.
especially without God. I think it takes that. So for me, I got on that path through some bumps and bruises, through the grace of God. Within a year or two, He gave me this purpose and allowed me to be involved in a ministry and help people that have dealt with a lot of these issues. So it's a path of grace. It's a path I didn't deserve. And I tell people, like what I feel like just I'm a trophy of God's grace.
Yeah.
And God do it for me, He do it for anybody.
Sure.
And I jumped a hold of this path of from pain to purpose.
All right.
That's the
cool.
trike, and secondly, that's a little about why I'm doing this. The second thing people ask, hey, how can we help maybe? And so there's different ways to get involved. First, Women's Center, we have a thrift store. Mm-hmm. So we would take those donations that you have. We do pickups with a box truck on Saturdays all around DeSoto County. We have a drop-off right there on our store. It's Warrior Center Thrift, right off the square in Olive Branch. We have a drop-off, but we do pickups too, and we take those goods, and 100% goes into that Women's Center in Olive Branch. And the store's always getting better and developing it, and that's a great store. A lot of people walk into that store, if your ladies listening, they're like, I can't believe this is a thrift store. It's got a lot of high-end merchandise,
sure.
and it's a great place, and so that's a big thing. So thrift store gifts. We also take donations, and then we have other ways that people get involved. We have church groups, youth groups come in and do feeding of the meals,
sure.
encourage in that way. So we have an opportunity for that. We also have a volunteer program. We call it Special Forces Volunteers, where men or women at our Women's Center or men at our Men's Center can go through a little training and get approved and get a badge and can give 2 hours a week at our centers, and so that's an opportunity. Sometimes people say, well, I want to get involved more. I want to mentor. I want to get in the nuts and bolts, and so people can get involved. It's a volunteer that way also.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just getting my eyes open to some of these amazing programs throughout the county. The community yes. and the tri-state area, if you will. So that's, again, my principal reason for having y'all on, is to be able to kind of like showcase some of the things, the opportunities to help others, and you obviously are on the right track. You're ever growing. You're trying to create more room for more people.
Right.
Because, you would know this because you grew up around here. DeSoto County's exploded. The yes. population, and with that becomes needs and more problems. I know it's good from the outside.
Yeah.
But there's this underlying little issue that comes with it. There's
right.
going to be more people with more problems,
right.
and so we have to have more resources as a community. As I always tell most of my guests, and I always say this: if you're looking for a free ride, Mississippi is not your state.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're not going to help you do anything. I
right.
mean, it's just their government is just not built that way. They're not
right.
big on any of that stuff. Matter of fact, they'll turn money back to the federal level like, no, we don't want those folks here. And I mean, it's a bad way to look at things, but it is just what we're dealing with. And we're not your typical Mississippi community. So we have bigger needs. We have bigger opportunities to develop these young people. Like you're saying, it's not all young folks. A lot of times older folks, but for the most part, you're going from a standpoint of helping them find a path in life beyond sobriety, but also giving them trades to help them through their lives, give them a focus on whether it be faith-based focus or education or whatever it may be, and that's amazing. I applaud
right.
that. So
right, thank you.
Yeah.
But if you don't, of course, I heard this said it's better to build a boy
yeah.
than to fix a broken man. Of
sure.
course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And be broken men, broken women. Yeah. And so children's programs and mentorship, those are first and foremost. That's the most vulnerable. But you're what you talked about, the issues when you, as a growing community, from drugs, especially, all kinds of different abuse, domestic violence, broken homes, all man. That. That's the bottom of society.
It really is.
But if you don't help those, it just grows.
And it manifests.
Yes, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You say, oh, well, that's they're knuckleheads or this, that, they just need to get a job, everything else. But you see what happens in the big urban communities. Look what's the bottom of Memphis, keeps it really tough place. You know what I mean?
It is,
from crime and violence and drugs and gang activity.
So when you say that, I think the correlation that we all say is, how does a city turn into that? You know what? A lack of resources, a lack of opportunities, a lack of programs, because you keep sucking all the money and crap out for other things. Like it doesn't get pointed in the right directions through education, through job opportunities, skilled labor opportunities, vocational schools, things of that nature. Over the course of the last 30, 40 years, it's been pulled out of our communities. And if we don't continue on the path in our society where we live, you and I here in DeSoto County, we don't give back like that, we don't create more opportunities, it's going to be like that. You know what I mean?
Right. It gets worse and
it does
worse.
Over time, because more people, more problems. That's just the way it works, you know. So, I mean, I agree with you in a standpoint of training more people to be and teaching them as a young person opposed to catching them as a man, look, I ain't gonna lie to you, you could catch a 50-year-old that needs to be rebuilt. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
but one of the things that we believe is in that when you talk about that lower part of society, it's the dark part of society, that who better to help that and go into the darkness and fight that than people that came out of it.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to be a part of that army.
Yeah.
Part of those people who go in with those stories, those testimonies of what they've been through, that there is a better way. And, I think the biggest reason, is for all of that is no fathers, broken
starts
families.
There. Yeah.
No fathers, broken families. We know you can have that and still life is still going to be tough, and but that's where a lot of that
it starts.
Yeah. And so once you get that, there's a lot of rescue work that has to go. And people sometimes got to go. Like me, I came out of that, but I also wasn't ready until a certain point. I had to be ready. Yeah. And sometimes you got to go through some things to be ready.
You got to fail a lot. Yeah. So I think we always talk about you can't force nobody into recovery, regardless of what the recovery is. Whether it's something you said interesting earlier about. It's not just drugs and alcohol. We think about that a lot of times, but it is sex addiction, gambling, kleptos, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
You
gamers,
whatever it is. Yeah. You can't just. You're not going to quit any of that until you're absolutely ready and sick and tired of it. Yeah. And toward somebody might take your freedom from you. Sounds like that's what happened to you.
That's
the freedom
exactly
was the face you were looking at oh crap, I done messed up bad.
Yeah.
So please get me out of this. I will help everybody the rest of my life, type thing. Yeah. And so that's kind of what happened. So yeah, I totally get that. I think that the best people that are best teachers have went through the mud the most. You know what I mean? Almost every person I've had on this show that is a great example of recovery or any of that stuff, they all have been through it. Mm-hmm. Only exception one, and that's Miss Ann Lunsford. She's never been down that road, but somehow she is successful in her program the way she does it. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody, but well,
she developed a heart through jail ministry for
that's
those.
Right.
So she got in the gutter with them.
Yeah, she got down in the mud with it.
And then developed a love for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. But one of the few people that is highly successful at that didn't have to go through the trials and tribulations of it in order to find out a way. But I truly think it's like you said, I think that some of the best teachers are the ones that's been down it. Down that road, that has lost everything. It's a redemption story like you talked about, and you're proud of your recovery, you're proud of your sobriety, and you want to help others get to that point where you're at. And you can be a shining example of what it can be.
Right.
Yeah. So anything else you want to talk about today, man? Sure.
No, sir. That's it. I appreciate you having me on.
Man, I think it's amazing. We'll do something else in the future, I'm sure, especially as you start getting your other programs up and running. If there's something special you want to do or talk about, just hit me up and we'll talk about it. We'll come in and talk about it for an hour or so and try to promote all the good stuff you got going on. Just continue to do the best work you can do. That's all you can do.
Yes,
and it's amazing. I love the stories. I didn't even know some of the stuff you were doing. I just thought it was just a one-dimensional program. Obviously, it's not. You guys are working in different directions to create lots of things for lots of people. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Remember, you can reach these guys on Facebook. I'm sure, I think it's Vincent at warriors.org and an email, warriorcenter.org, phone number 901-849-3333. And that's David's personal cell phone. He even told me to put it out there because he's like, I don't care. I'm trying to help folks.
It's what we do.
That's what we do. Yeah. So, again, guys, thank you for joining us today. Always remember to support your local community charities, nonprofits. Obviously, these wonderful programs we have on here, they all need support and help. They're donation-based, from the House of Grace to the Warrior Centers to whatever, get involved. If it's not this one, pick something. Just get involved. And and just remember, help your neighbor. Always help your neighbor. Be looking out for them. Okay, final thing is roofworksmidsouth.com. Thank you again for always sponsoring us. I really appreciate it. That is probably my primary friend, Randy. Him and his wife just do amazing things in the community too. They're always looking for new ways to help and get involved in things, but they're the ones that help me with the Feed My Moms program primarily as well.
Great.
So
awesome.
Where we feed a lot of kids, and hopefully maybe y'all can come out and help us with that this year at our big event. Maybe get some folks out.
We have men and women who would love to give you some man and woman power.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, because we definitely need it. Those days, one time, me and Randy, our first year, I think he lost like 15 pounds in a day because we were just running on asphalt and hot.
Right.
We're old, man. Like we can't do it. We can't do it. So we need some.
That's one thing we can help you with.
Yeah, is get involved in just the manpower side of it. You know, so it's amazing. And again, remember, guys, we're giving away the truck in October 11th at our fundraiser, the annual event. It's going to be in Walls, Mississippi, at the Minor Memorial Church. Their big parking lot. We're going to have a car show, food vendors, Matai's Polynesian barbecue, Fancy Nancy's barbecue. That's what we call it always. We got Bee Nutrition, and we also have Sippin' on Lemonade. They're going to be out there this year for the cold treats. So as I start doing some of these shows, you'll start seeing me promote some of the people that's going to be involved with that this year. Obviously, the Warrior Center, if you're going to help us, we're going to help you. That's kind of what the goal is. So remember to get involved. Feed My Lambs at minormemorial.org/lambs. Look on their webpage. Look at the events we got coming up. Just try to support it any way you can. We really appreciate it. All right, guys, till next time. Thank you. Bye.